speaking of Hollywood celebrities, a lot of them are terrified about Trump potentially winning a second term. Robert De Niro just came out and he said if Trump wins re-election, he's going to come looking for De Niro.
Nothing at all, nothing redeemable in him. And we have to, and whoever the people are who want to vote for him, and there look like intelligent people around there, somebody, for some reason, it can't be. It cannot be. If he wins the election, you won't be on the show anymore. He'll come looking for me. There'll be things that happen that none of us can imagine. That's what happens in that kind of a dictatorship, which is what he says. Let's believe him. Take him at his word.
I did from the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, I said from the very beginning, this guy is never going to concede power, and he still hasn't.
No.
He still hasn't. He just admitted he lost the last election, and he advertises that he will go on. He says he's been cheated out of one term, so maybe we should get rid of a president only gets 2 terms thing.
It seems to me that I've heard this song before. It's from an old familiar score. We know that this stuff won't happen because this kind of language might have worked when Trump was running the first time. It doesn't work now because he's already been president. And he did leave office. Even after they rigged the election, he left office. He gave a few angry speeches about it, but he left office. And now he's running again. And he didn't jail Robert De Niro. He probably doesn't think about Robert De Niro all that much. And he didn't take Bill Maher's program off TV. And none of that happened. You want to talk about narcissism. And then even, again, getting back to this point about Trump and Reagan. Now the liberals have a strange new respect for Reagan. Oh, the great old days of Ronald Reagan. If Donald Trump wins, he is going to try to repeal term limits for the president. Ronald Reagan spent his post-presidency doing exactly that. That people forget this now because they selectively edit out the history of these men that now so many of the squishes revere. Bill Buckley, he was so urbane, so anodyne. Bill Buckley was a McCarthyite. Bill Buckley wrote a book defending Joe McCarthy and McCarthyism. He said McCarthyism is a moral crusade around which all Americans of strong moral fiber can rally, okay? Oh, we forget about that. Bill Buckley said we need a more closed, not a more open society where we jail Nazis and communists simply for their political views. All of the free speech absolutists today, they forget about that part. Ronald Reagan spent his post-presidency campaigning for 2 things. It was cut a bit short, obviously, because he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease and he left public life. But for the few years where he was in public life, he campaigned for gun control and a repeal of the 22nd Amendment, which term limits presidents. Donald Trump, he might do, yeah, okay, I guess if he did that, he'd be even more like Ronald Reagan. But it's not just Reagan and Trump, by the way. Bill Clinton has suggested the same. Bill Clinton, leaving the presidency, said that the 22nd Amendment, if it doesn't need to be totally repealed, it should be edited, it should be altered because people are living longer. So Bill Clinton's suggestion was, okay, a president can only serve 2 consecutive terms, but then he ought to be able to leave office and then run for another term. So you actually have bipartisan consensus. Reagan, Clinton, 2 of the most popular presidents of their respective parties in recent memory, and Donald Trump, who's the current nominee. So popular, he's the nominee again. All calling for the thing that Bill Maher describes as a mark of tyranny and dictatorship or something. It's just very silly. It speaks to this same issue that we're talking about with Psaki and Maddow, which is it's not merely that the libs and the squishes in the Republican Party all have an ideology that is perverse or disordered. It's that they are ignorant of really basic facts of really recent political history. So finally, the race is solidified, right? We've got Biden's a nominee for the Democrats, even though they want Newsom, even though they want whatever, it's Biden. They want Michelle Obama, whatever they're talking about. And for the Republicans, it's Trump. And now you've got to the point where Ron DeSantis, who was the most credible threat for most of the race against Donald Trump, has now endorsed Trump and is attacking Nikki Haley, who at the end of the race became the most credible threat against Trump, but it was never a very serious threat. He's attacking Haley for not endorsing Trump.
I signed the pledge, and you signed the pledge saying that you're going to not take your ball and go home. And so I honored the pledge, and she's going to have to make a decision about whether she wants to or not. But the idea that somehow circumstances have changed, I think we all knew what we were doing when we did that. And you got to make a judgment about whether that's meaningful to you. And so for me, I tell people, if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it.
I think that's the right thing to do. I think not only is it the right thing to do morally, but I think politically it's the smart thing to do too. So if I were advising Nikki Haley, don't forget, while the race was still going on, I said that Nikki Haley has every right to stay in the race. And even when all the Republicans were calling for her to drop out, I said, look, she doesn't have necessarily a political incentive to drop out right now. And she doesn't quite have the political ability. So I was all for her running as long as she wanted to. But now that she has dropped out, it looks really bad for her to come out and say, well, yeah, I said that I would endorse the eventual nominee so that I could get on the debate stage, but that was just a cynical lie. I don't actually want to do that. It's politically, it's a bad look. And so I don't know why Nikki Haley's advisors are telling her to do that, but I think it's hurting her long term. I think she actually still does have a pretty strong political future. I think that's why she stayed in the race for a long time. I think she played her cards very well and is a talented politician, but this is a very bad look, and I think DeSantis is totally right here. Trump is the nominee. This is why now I've just accepted an invitation for an event. It's for a great group called Catholics for Catholics. I love that name. It's really tells you exactly what the group is about. It's a political group, Catholics for Catholics, and they're doing an event to support a Catholic political vision for 2024, and specifically to pray for President Trump. And so this is going to be an event at Mar-a-Lago. Would I have accepted this invitation while the GOP primary was still going on? Probably not, because I don't think it's really my role to be campaigning for candidates. We don't even really, as a general rule, we don't hit the campaign trail too often here at the Daily Wire. We just don't think that's really our role in the conservative movement and the party. But in this case, there's no more primary race. There's no more campaign. It's now Trump versus Biden. And so I'm excited to join this group down there at Mar-a-Lago, and I think it's very important. In this case, this is for Catholic political action. I think it's true broadly for religious people to make your voices heard. President Biden has made it very, very clear that he is attempting to continue to undermine his putative faith. I mean, the man says he's Catholic, and yet he undermines core aspects of Catholic teaching, specifically on political issues. We know that the atheists and the secularists and the liberals are very, very aggressive at persecuting Christians, Catholics in particular. Don't forget, Biden sicked his DOJ and FBI on Catholic churches to go spy on us, and the memos, whether Biden did it, consciously, or whether it was just his administration that did it, remains to be seen. I don't know that Biden knows his own name, but we know the administration did it. We know the administration lied about it. We know they're going after all sorts of religious people and pro-lifers and homeschoolers and all the rest, insinuating that we're domestic terrorists or something because we think boys and girls are different, because we think that God exists, because we think that parents ought to have some right to raise their children in a proper way and not according to the disastrous delusions of leftism. Well, if you believe that, then maybe you want to take some actual political action. It's a little bit different. It's good to give money to charity. You should do that too, directly going out, helping the poor. But we should not fall into a political quietism, and a religious and political quietism that says, Christians should never do anything in politics. I think that's been a huge mistake in recent decades. It's totally not in keeping with many, many centuries of the Christian tradition. And it's contrary to even America's founding. America was founded to be a model of Christian charity, a shining city on a hill. Our early ancestors were pilgrims who came here on the Mayflower. Our early statesmen gave thanks to God. We believe in our Declaration of Independence that we are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights. That's the fact that the nation is predicated on. So if you believe that, it's very important to take some political action. And political action means you got to support real things in real time in politics during real elections. That's an important thing to do. And now the time of the primary is over. The candidates had their chances, and it was probably already baked in from the beginning. But now there's a nominee. And most of the candidates have gotten on board, like Ron DeSantis here. Some have not yet, but conservatives need to now stand up and do things. Unity is a very important aspect of politics. That was a really good clip. Smart, incisive, downright sexy, if you ask me. If you want more of them, you have to ring that bell. Subscribe to the Michael Knowles YouTube channel. We'll see you next time.